Sarah Palin, and you're listening to Sarah Palin Radio.
Welcome to Sarah Palin Radio with your host, LaDonna Hale Curzon.
Back to Sarah Palin Radio, the Internet voice for Governor Sarah Palin. We are very pleased to have with us today the former Speaker of the House and Republican candidate for President, Newt Gingrich. The Speaker has been a guest on Sarah Palin before, and we are so happy to have him on again, especially now when he is considered by many to be the leading candidate. It's been a very good week for you, Mr. Speaker. Congratulations.
Well, it's sort of been amazing, I think. I'm very, very pleased and frankly regard it as a sign that substance matters and that people are responding to the ideas we have about creating jobs, about balancing, turning power back home. So it's really pretty remarkable.
Well, you, no doubt, you're surging in the polls, and after a rocky start when you had some campaign staff desert you and sign on with Rick Perry, what would you like to say to those people now?
Nothing. I mean, they made a set of decisions that were probably right for them. I am not a normal politician. I don't run a normal campaign. I think they found it very hard to understand what I was doing and why I was doing it and how I was doing it. And so running a positive, issue-oriented conversation with the American people just wasn't what they were good at. And I think it was a mismatch of cultures, and we both ended up going, they're doing the right thing, trying to run a traditional campaign. I'm doing the right thing, trying to run a conversation with the American people.
That's right. That's a very like Governor Palin. She's not traditional either. She runs the campaign her way, and a lot of people are not used to that. But it works.
I was very struck, by the way. I watched recently, Clifton and I watched the DVD, The Undefeated, and we were very impressed with her record as a genuine reformer in Alaska. I think it's tragic that when the McCain people introduced her, that they didn't have that kind of a film to let people realize how genuine she was and how profoundly different she was.
Yeah, it would have been great at the convention as a warm-up to her speech. But has your fundraising picked up since your rise in the polls?
Dramatically, yeah. We now raise more money every day than we raised in the entire month of July, so we're very excited by what's happening, and it continues to develop, and we, particularly at newt.org, my first name.org, the number of people who are coming on board and voluntarily donating money without even being asked is very inspirational. Gives us a real sense of security for the future. But, look, this is a giant job running for president, and this is going to be a marathon. We're very fortunate that right now we're in very good shape. We're going to continue to work on it, but we have a lot of other things we've got to get done, too.
Well, now that you're a leading candidate, the media is going to do to you what they did to Governor Palin, attack. Are you prepared for what the media is going to throw at you?
Well, I'm prepared in the psychological sense that I've been through this before, and I think if you're a solid conservative, you have to expect that they'll throw the kitchen sink at you, and that's all right. I think if you're going to run for president, you have to be open to answering every possible question, and I believe by the time we get done, what you'll see is a series of outrageous headlines, each of which gradually disappears as the facts show up. And my job is to calmly and pleasantly state the facts until the reporters go away.
Well, Governor Palin, as you know, has a large and very passionate base of supporters. Now, since Governor Palin isn't running, we're looking for a candidate to support. Can you tell us, as well as those of us in the Tea Party, that a Gingrich presidency will not abandon conservative principles?
Well, I think if you look at what I did working with Ronald Reagan in the 1979-80 campaign, in the 8 years of his presidency when I was a member of Congress, what I did as Speaker of the House, the fact that I stood up to George H.W. Bush and opposed tax increases in 1990, I think I have a pretty consistent record of being solidly conservative. And everything, if you go to newt.org, my first name.org, and you look at the 21st Century Contract with America, I think you'll find that's a pretty solidly conservative document.
Very good. Will you join Governor Palin in the fight against crony capitalism?
Absolutely. I think things like the Solyndra case are perfect examples of why you don't want bureaucrats giving away grants and loans and what have you. And I've already said that I would abolish the Department of Energy, which I think has more than earned that outcome, given how badly they've mishandled our money.
That's for sure. This week marks the 10th anniversary of the founding of the TSA. Your campaign does not have a charter jet yet, anyway, so you're traveling a great deal on commercial airlines, and you have to put up with the same treatment at the airport as the rest of us. Would President Gingrich reform the TSA, and if so, how?
Well, first of all, I do believe that you ought to profile potential terrorists, and you ought to track them much more carefully. I think there's a great deal we can learn from the Israelis in this way of trying to narrow down who you target. Second, I think there ought to be a relatively easy way for people who are clearly unlikely to be a threat. I mean, I don't regard an 80-year-old nun from Des Moines as a high-security threat, you know. So I just think we ought to have some kind of practicality and common sense applied to the entire system.
I agree totally. You've said that the 2012 election is the most important election since 1860. Why so?
I think that we are at a point of choosing which kind of America we're going to become. I think we have a president who is consistently and methodically on the left, who really does represent the Saul Alinsky kind of radicalism that he taught as a Southside Chicago community organizer. We tend to forget community organizer in the Alinsky model is not about social help. It's not about boys and girls clubs. It's about hardcore political organizing and a real effort to destroy middle-class America and a real effort to destroy the system that we've inherited from our founding fathers. So I think having a dramatic choice between somebody like Newt Gingrich, who believes in American exceptionalism, believes in free enterprise, believes in the work ethic, believes that you are a citizen, not a subject, that the government should be subordinate to you, you should not be subordinate to the government. The choice between that approach and the Obama approach of a centralized Washington class warfare bureaucratic socialist model will be extraordinarily decisive in which way and where the country goes.
What's the first thing you'll do after you're sworn in as president?
Well, within 2 hours of being sworn in as president, I hope to stop and do a project called the Day One Plan. And we will have between 100 and 200 executive orders and presidential findings to sign. At that moment, the very first one will abolish all of the White House czars effective that minute.
Final question here. We know that you're a big fan of the NFL. Any prediction on which two teams will face off in the Super Bowl, and which one will win?
Look, let me just say up front, I have a deep bias in that I own one share of Packer stock.
Right.
So I will confess that I am personally confident the Packers will be in the Super Bowl. I am not prepared to go out on the limb for the other team, but I'm also prepared to say with a deep bias that the Packers will win the Super Bowl and have back-to-back championships.
All right, you're a cheesehead.
Okay, exactly. You got
Thank
it.
you for that.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
I will keep this in mind as we get closer to the end of the football season. Well, we're out of time here.
Okay.
I want to thank you, Speaker Gingrich, for coming on today.
Thank you. We'll talk later in the season.
Okay. For those interested in finding out more about the Newt Gingrich campaign, you can go to newt.org.